Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss, are stars going to be moving in the NBA this offseason? Why are we talking about this? Well, there's a report that came out, and I'll go ahead and show you guys this tweet from NBA Central. It's quoting a Philadelphia Inquirer beat reporter that covers the 76ers that Paul George may be headed to Philadelphia. So go ahead, read this tweet here. The belief is that the Clippers are unwilling to meet Paul George's expectations for his next contract. Per Pompey on Sixers, the Sixers are closely monitoring the situation, hoping the Clippers let Paul George slip away. There is a other quote that I read too pertaining to the story, that the fact that the Philadelphia 76ers want Paul George, who is a free agent headed into this offseason. He will be a free agent at the end of the season. That the Sixers are very much targeting Paul George, and that is kind of like the main piece that they want to add to a Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, team. And if you look at the Philadelphia 76ers contracts and the way that they have them set up, basically, if you look at it, the only person that's like on the team contract wise after this season is Joel Embiid. Now, Tyrese Maxey, he is in the last year of his rookie deal. So that also is probably another reason why the Sixers haven't, just right away, just like given him like a huge, rookie max extension. It's because they want to wait and they want to see if they can get some sort of like pieces in free agency, and then they can do it's basically a weird thing that you have to do with the NBA contracts. So you have to kind of maneuver things in order to fit everything, realistically under the cap. The very interesting thing here is too, guys, because there's a lot of people that like it said that tweet there that, hey, the Clippers, if they aren't going to pay Paul George the money that he wants, Paul George is going to walk. The weird thing about that story being broken right there is that I don't know why the Clippers would let Paul George walk. I don't know why they would. What, so they can pay James Harden? That doesn't make sense to me, because the Clippers are very much right now, next season they're going to be moving into a brand new stadium. And it is very important for the Clippers in that local LA market to have stars that they can market and that they can actually get people to come to their stadium, because they built this whole new state-of-the-art stadium. And if the Clippers are going to be like 35 and 45 every single year, 36 and 46 rather, then all of a sudden that stadium is going to look like a flop. It's just going to be a massive failure. So the Clippers, when they open this arena, for better or worse for the future of the franchise, want to kind of maintain relevancy, and they want to maintain competitiveness when they open up this new arena. And keeping Paul George would be, a good way to do that. Because say what you want about Paul George, even though he is getting into his mid to late 30s, or I guess he's in his mid 30s. I think he's like 33 going on 34 right now. He still is going to be a competent, probably you'd project an all-star-ish level player for the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe he doesn't make 3 more all-star teams, but he's still going to be kind of in that realm. And he is a guy that does have a lot of experience and can put up a lot of stats, and he does have a lot of name recognition. With that being said, though, why would Paul George want to leave the Clippers? Paul George has been in the league for what now 13, 14 years, I believe. I believe he was in the 10 or 11 draft. I can't remember which year. So he's been in the league a while. He starts his career with the Indiana Pacers. They have a few fun teams there. They challenged the LeBron Heat in a few close series. And then Paul George, kind of after that little spurt there with Indiana, with the Roy Hibbert, David West teams, all of a sudden Paul George is kind of flirting with LA. And he's not flirting with the Clippers, by the way. He's flirting with the Lakers. And he's kind of batting his eyes at them. And he's kind of basically telling Indiana, like, hey, you guys might as well just trade me to the Lakers right now, because if you don't, whenever I become a free agent, I'm just going to go in there in free agency because I don't want to be in Indiana anymore. So what happens after that? Kevin Durant leaves OKC. Russell Westbrook spends an entire year averaging triple doubles and basically pushing Steven Adams out of the way to get triple-double rebounds, and wins the MVP. Well, the Oklahoma City Thunder say, we want to make sure that Russell Westbrook stays in Oklahoma City. We're going to get him a running mate, a star. They actually got him too, because people actually forget this. It's kind of funny. Do you guys forget that Carmelo Anthony was on the Thunder with Russell Westbrook and Paul George? Anyway, they trade for Carmelo Anthony. They trade for Paul George. And Paul George is with them for 1 year. Paul George it's kind of a gamble because Paul George is a free agent after 1 year. And basically, it was kind of like a weird situation where they're having kind of like an end of the season party. And Paul George, it appears like at this end of the season party where Russell Westbrook is hosting, kind of gets, I don't want to say forced, but definitely kind of like seems like it'd be kind of weird for him to be at this party and then like 2 days later be like, hey, I'm on the Lakers. It was kind of one of those weird things. I don't know if you guys remember that story. I look back at that now and I think it's funny, but he signs a extension with the Thunder. Then you guys know a year later, the trade happens where he gets to go to the Clippers. Basically, my point in bringing all that stuff up is Paul George has really never had like true free agency in his career. He signed the rookie extension in Indiana. Then he signed an extension with the Thunder, and then he signed another extension with the Clippers, and he's never actually went out and tested true free agency. And guys, kind of a not well kept secret with the Clippers over the last few years is this has kind of been, a failure with the Kawhi and Paul George Clippers. If you look at the first year, 1920, in the bubble, they blow a 3-1 lead in the second round, only win one playoff series that year. The next year, I believe, is when they make the conference finals. Or no, wait. Yeah, I was right. The next year they make the conference finals, but the cost of that is Kawhi Leonard tears his ACL, which kills them for the next season because in 21-22, they don't make the playoffs. Then last year, they're in the first round of the playoffs. They actually look like we're going to have like a thriller of a series with the Phoenix Suns because Kawhi Leonard looks at the peak of his powers again, and then Kawhi Leonard gets hurt again. Clippers bounced in round one. This is a pattern here where guys they haven't won a playoff series since 2022, and they haven't they've only won 3 playoff series. And if the way that this season is going right now for the Clippers, like we covered this last week where Ty Lue called the team soft. Their defense has just fell off a cliff. There's no urgency with this team. They are, there's a lot of selfish basketball going on. The unselfish basketball that we saw when the Clippers are really clipping early in the season from that December, January stretch, it's gone. It's gone. And you can't tell if they're coasting and they've fallen down the standings for a little bit. There's a time where we thought the Clippers could potentially get the number 1 seed in the West. And now it's like they're falling where they could, depending if it's really bad this last like week and a half or whatever, 2 weeks, they could fall to like the 6th seed in the West. It's probably unlikely. They're probably stuck at like that 4-5 range, but things are just going terribly for the Clippers right now. And what happens if they play a Luka Doncic and at the best that he's ever been with probably the best team that's ever been around him, or Zion Williamson and the Pelicans in that 4-5 matchup? And let's say the Clippers get bounced. Does Paul George just look around and be like, been here 5 years, I've won 3 playoff series, the money isn't necessarily the biggest factor with me. I'll go and get money anywhere. If I stay with the Clippers, this is what it's just going to be for the rest of my career. It's just going to be playoff disappointments. It's going to be Kawhi being injured. We're probably going to get another fat Harden at one other time in the rest of his career. I'm going to predict at least one more fat Harden in his career. He's got one more in him. I think he's got one more in him. And does he say, I could stay here, make money, probably put up a bunch of stats to the Clippers, maybe get my jersey retired one day? Or do I want to go to the Philadelphia 76ers, and do I actually want to compete for a championship? And they don't have to give up anything for me, and they can build around Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. And you can do pick and rolls with Joel Embiid. You can be the screener on pick and rolls with Tyrese Maxey. You don't necessarily have to carry the load, but you also get times where you get to carry the load because Joel Embiid's probably the reality of Embiid's career. As I'm looking up right now as I'm recording, Philadelphia just won in his return against OKC. There's probably going to be at least like 20 games in his career every season just because Philadelphia is going to manage him that way for the rest of his career where he's going to be out. So there's still times where you can put up your stats that could potentially get you into all NBA conversations too, that I don't think you will be able to have on the Clippers. So does Paul George just kind of look around and be like, screw this. I want to go win a title. I don't want to be one of those guys that hasn't won a title. I want to go be part of something. I want to go win. Or is he going to stay in LA for the money and new Clippers stadium and be closer to home? And if he does that, great for him. But there's a real possibility here that it's going to be like, honestly, what's more important to you, dude? Because you guys might think differently. I think playing with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in Philly with Daryl Morey as your GM, I actually think that is a better situation to win in the NBA right now than with an aging James Harden, with an aging Kawhi Leonard who has been injury prone. Basically, since he's gotten to his late 20s, and now he's in his late 30s. And the thing is, too, guys, you just know the progression of NBA players. The best years of all of those guys are behind them. So if your ceiling right now with this team right now is getting your, teeth caved in by Luka Doncic in the first round, things aren't changing next year. Things aren't changing the year after that. And they certainly aren't changing the year after that unless there's some drastic moves that the Clippers make to, get better stars on their team. So just kind of an interesting thought that I had here. Paul George, the Sixers are targeting him. If the Clippers don't pay him, it looks like that's where Paul George will potentially go in free agency. So I wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. Let me know what you guys think. Should Paul George leave? Should the Sixers want him? I've seen some Sixers fans online say they wouldn't want to give Paul George like a huge contract. Thank you very much for watching this video of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. If you like this video, please help us out so much. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Leave a comment of what you thought about this video. Do you think Paul George should go to the Sixers? Do you think the Sixers should want Paul George? Do you think he should stay with the Clippers? Should he go to another team? Just let me know what you think about the video. I'd really appreciate it. It helps us out in the algorithm. Thank you guys very much for watching, and feel free to explore the Sports Detective Podcast channel. And maybe you'll find another video and I'll talk to you next time.